We are picking up momentum in the WWE as we get closer to fans in the stadium. Just a couple of weeks away from Money in the Bank. The Rated R Superstar has returned. All of that coming up on this edition of the Pie Bomb Wrestling Podcast. Let's get right into it. The bomb drops now. Hello and welcome to this Wednesday edition of the Pie Bomb Wrestling Podcast, the show that is for the fans, by the fans. I am your phenomenal host, Mr. Podcasting, Chris Belcher. You can follow me at Chris Belcher24 on all the social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can follow the show at PBW Podcast on those platforms as well. Welcome to the show. We appreciate you joining us, whether you are listening on a traditional audio format or whether you are looking at our smiling faces on YouTube. We appreciate it either way. Just hit that subscribe button. That way you get a notification every Monday and Thursday when we drop new episodes. My tag team partner for this, not Wednesday edition, Thursday edition, I'm still getting used to that, of the Pie Bomb Wrestling Podcast. Man, it's been a long night. Mr. Andy York is with me tonight. How's it going, man? Doing all right?
Doing good. Finally getting life calmed down and settled and
oh my God,
ready to get back on the norm.
You've had more hiccups than a growing child.
I have never heard that before.
I haven't either. I just made it up.
It's a great phrase.
I just made it up. It's probably really stupid, but whatever. Anyway, but man, you're finally in your house though, which is awesome. And you're finally settled in and getting things taken care of, but it's been a long process. I hate that.
It has been. It's been a very long process, but it's worth it. Finally getting in our own place and ready to start life and move on. So I'm just happy to finally own it and be in it and ready to roll with it. So.
Absolutely. And Andy hosts the Shandy Show, which is your one-stop shop for everything DC, Marvel, comics, movies, everything in between. So make sure you check him out. We'll make sure to throw that info up and let him give a little spiel later on. But as far as the Pie Bomb Wrestling Podcast goes, as I said, every Monday and every Thursday, make sure you're subscribing to our channels. In fact, Andy, this show is dropping on July 1st. So the Pie Bomb Wrestling Podcast, we are going to run a little giveaway in the month of July. The way that's going to work is we're really trying to build up our YouTube channel. So make sure that you are checking that out. You get all kinds of bonus content there as well. And you get video versions of all of our shows. So make sure that you're checking out our YouTube channel. If you haven't, we're going to do a giveaway to entice you to do so. Here's what you need to do. Very, very simple. First thing is subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's it. That's all you gotta do. Subscribe. Second thing you need to do, take a screenshot of where you have subscribed. So evidence of your subscription. So that little button should say subscribed. Make sure you take a screenshot of it, and then you're going to share it on whatever social media site that you want. Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram does not matter to us. The only thing we ask you to do is to explain why you like the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast, why all of your friends should subscribe to the show as well, and tag us in it. We're at PBW Podcast on all of those platforms. So do those three things, and you will be entered in a giveaway. A random winner will be selected at the end of July. You're going to win a free Pie Bomb Wrestling Podcast t-shirt. That's it. That's all you got to do. So for those of you who are already subscribed, you are not disqualified. Okay. So what you need to do is go to our YouTube channel, find your favorite episode of the Pie Bomb Wrestling Podcast, and share the link to that particular episode. Again, you need to tell us why you like that episode, why your friends should subscribe, and tag us on any of those platforms. You do those things, you are entered in the giveaway as well. We're giving away a free t-shirt at the end of the month, man. I know you have your t-shirt.
I do.
And I know you're subscribed to the show.
I am.
But if you want to get another t-shirt, be entered in that giveaway, do the same thing.
I will do that. And I think everyone's favorite episode is when I went solo for Double or Nothing. I think that might be everybody's favorite.
That is the third most viewed episode on YouTube of any of our videos. So if you want to listen to Andy chat and get rid of me, go check out the AEW Double or Nothing post show. Andy did a fantastic job holding the fort down for us. Thank you. That was the first show in the history of this podcast in 3 years that I've ever missed. So kudos to you for holding down the fort.
Thank you.
Speaking of AEW, we always kick our Thursday shows off by going beyond the Federation. And man, it has been such a chore since I've been out on vacation to catch up on all things wrestling. It's been so much for me to get NXT and WWE and all the pay-per-views and all that. So needless to say, I know nothing about what's going on in AEW. The one thing that I do know that is beyond the Federation is I just picked up this, came in the mail today for everybody to see. This is the new Chris Jericho book. It is called The Complete List of Jericho. It is 30 years of smashes, matches, and hits. And what it is a compilation literally of every match he's ever wrestled. And some descriptions and some rankings and some stories. So this is only available online. It's only available online. It will not be in retail stores. So go check it out. I flipped through it already, and it is a fantastic book. So, not your traditional read, but if you're a Chris Jericho fan, you're a wrestling fan, that's a book you need in your collection. I'm just
absolutely.
So, Andy, since I've been out, man, catch us up on a couple of the big things that's happening in AEW and some of your thoughts.
Yeah, so the big thing, I guess, from this past week's episode that took place on Saturday, because of the NBA playoffs, has kind of messed everybody up, apparently.
Yeah, I'm totally screwed up about when AEW even airs.
But this past Wednesday, the main event was Jungle Boy versus Kenny Omega for the title, and it was a fantastic match. I think Jungle Boy is definitely one of like the biggest fan favorites in AEW, probably alongside Orange Cassidy. He definitely can play the underdog role very well. He is amazing in the ring. He does everything really, really well. And so that match was really, really great from start to finish. If you haven't checked it out, I definitely recommend you checking it out. But it seems also that they're getting ready to set up Kenny Omega versus Christian Cage at some point for the AEW title. So I think that'll be a lot of fun to see that as well come down. And then what's kind of been circulating Twitter since AEW went off the air, Eddie Kingston cut a promo after the show went off, basically calling out WWE and kind of going back and forth. So it was probably unnecessary, as most of the shots across the aisle have been unnecessary, but they're still fun to watch. It still reminds you that there's still competition going on, which is a lot of fun. Right. And I think you can be on WWE side. I think you can be on AEW side. I'm right in the middle. I think both of them bring something different to the table, which sometimes is great, sometimes it's not. Both have really great moments, and both have some very questionable moments. But I think that's true for any promotion, any wrestling show. It's hard to write a thorough show from week to week, and all these moving parts. And they're getting ready to introduce another show on Friday night called Rampage. That's like an hour long. There's going to be a tie-in to Dynamite as well. So there's a lot of moving parts right now, but I definitely would check out the Jungle Boy versus Kenny Omega match. That was a lot of fun to watch. I think AEW has been pretty good for the most part the last couple of weeks.
I've heard that match was definitely worth checking out. So I will most likely do that. And man, I've said it from the beginning. I'm not the biggest AEW fan, but I see no problem in liking elements of both promotions. I don't see any reason why you can't. Man, look, Monday Night Wars back in the day, 1996, the 8-year-old fan in me was flipping back and forth. Like there was no like, I hate this company and I love this company. No, flip back and forth. I think you can do the same nowadays. Absolutely. I think a lot of fans take it way too seriously and that you have to like one or the other. You can't like both. Not
wrestling fans. Wrestling fans would never take anything too seriously.
No, man. No. Now, I will say that I always stick to my guns. In 1996, you can't be a Shawn Michaels fan if you're a Bret Hart fan. If you can't be a Bret Hart fan if you're a Shawn Michaels fan. That's true. And I stick to that to this day. So maybe I'm just a fickle wrestling fan.
No, that's because that was a real life situation. That wasn't two companies going back and forth. That was some real life things happening in that moment.
That's true. That's true. That's very true. Man, speaking of real life things, as we transition to WWE, we are recording this one day early. So we have some NXT results that we'll just kind of fire off a little bit. I haven't had a chance to sit down and watch it, but so we're not going to need as much NXT coverage as normal. But next week, Great American Bash, we are going to do a live stream when Great American Bash ends. So make sure you tune into YouTube and Twitch and Facebook, because we're going to be live right at the end of Great American Bash. That'll be 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central. But speaking of real life, going to the main roster, as we record this on Tuesday, June the 29th, apparently Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch got married today.
I saw that.
Man, just like totally out of the blue. Congratulations to Seth and Becky finally tying the knot. Pretty cool, though. I mean, it definitely solidifies. I would think she's coming back pretty soon. And I mean, that would indicate if history repeats itself that couples go to the same show. So she's going to go to SmackDown.
Maybe. I don't.
Seth goes back to Raw.
Yeah, especially since they're starting to travel again, and I think that's why they've been holding off on her coming back. She's probably been able to come back since WrestleMania, and they probably just wanted to wait. Yeah, they probably just wanted to wait until a live crowd is back on a weekly basis. Just like the rumor going around is that they're also waiting to play "No More Words," Jeff Hardy's old theme song. Yeah, they're waiting for a live crowd for that. So, I think once we get back to a live crowd, there's going to be a couple of massive surprises at Money in the Bank. And I wouldn't be surprised if this year the Raw after Money in the Bank is kind of like the Raw after Mania in some ways. I could definitely see that transition happening there. But I hope she does come back pretty soon. And I don't know if I want her on Raw anymore because the Raw women's division is all messed up at this point. So I don't really know if I want her on Raw to kind of get not lost. She's not going to get lost in that shuffle, but to get bogged down in that shuffle. I think SmackDown would be a great place for her to go.
Well, I think on Raw, she's going to be a big fish in a small pond. You know, I just don't think there's anybody that literally there's nobody. The Rhea Ripley matchup would be interesting because we've never seen it before, but Charlotte we've seen, but I feel like that if you put Becky on Raw, there's no competition that you can convince me is going to legitimately beat Becky Lynch.
Right.
It's not going to happen, Right. So, but on the flip side of that, I feel like that Seth Rollins has sort of run through the gamut of SmackDown with the exception of Roman Reigns. So maybe you flip him over to Raw. You know what I mean? I
don't know. I'm not going to give my early predictions for Money in the Bank just yet, but I definitely think we're heading to a Rollins Edge SummerSlam match.
We definitely are. Yeah,
which will probably end up leading to a Rollins Roman Universal title match at some point down the line.
Yep.
And so I think he could probably stay on till Survivor Series. And then kind of maybe switch then, or who knows who could get called up from NXT at that point and who he could have a match with, because Seth Rollins versus Karrion Kross would be a lot of fun to see that as well. But I definitely think he has a couple more months probably on SmackDown. It's just, I don't know. SmackDown seems like it's such a small roster, and I think it is, but in a weird way, it works for it, and it benefits from having such a small roster that you're not able to do as much. And so while you're limited, you have to get more creative. And I think they've definitely done that on SmackDown, whereas Raw, they have all these people and we see the same matchups on a weekly basis. That makes no sense. Well,
I mean, and SmackDown's only a 2-hour show. So it makes sense as to why they're limited and why the roster is smaller. I will say this, though. The actual wrestling on Raw has improved greatly over the last several weeks. Like, I've been interested. I don't want to say I've been interested for 3 hours because that might be a stretch, but I've been interested for at least 2 hours.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely interested. Those matches have been really good. And we're going to talk about that triple threat match here in a minute. But before we do, I want to run through some stuff on SmackDown. You said you weren't going to give any Money in the Bank predictions or anything yet. I'm going to go ahead and spoil one of mine, is that I think Big E could win the men's Money in the Bank.
That would be, I'm
going Big E because for one of the things that you mentioned, surprises, things changing with a live crowd. I think that guy with a live crowd and the Money in the Bank briefcase, you talk about a lot of fun, man.
Yeah.
You talk about a guy getting over, especially when he's working so hard to separate himself from the New Day as far as being a guy on your own. I think the best way to do that is Money in the Bank briefcase. I'm not asking you to give a prediction, but I mean, that's where I'm at.
Yeah, and I'm not going to give this prediction, but I think if you had to rank like in order of participants that we have right now, I honestly think the number one most likely in a lot of people's eyes is probably Drew McIntyre.
Sure.
But I don't. Here's the thing about Drew is that Drew has been the face of Monday Night Raw through the pandemic, and while it's not been the best, Drew McIntyre has been like the shining thing on Raw for over a year now, basically. But wrestling fans don't like the same person over and over and over again, and so I think he might fizzle out with the crowd pretty quickly. And so I don't think putting the Money in the Bank on him would work out as well. And so I definitely think Big E is one of those guys that it wouldn't be a bad decision. And it would definitely be it would be different because I think we're so used to when a babyface wins it, they normally cash in like that night and then they don't hold it for a while. And the heels normally hold on to it for 6 to 8 months. I would love to see him hold on to it for that long because I think he could. I don't want him to change. I want him to stay Big E, just Big E with the briefcase. I think would be a lot of fun.
I want Big E with the briefcase. You know how what much of a joking personality that he has and what a jokester that he actually is and how much fun he has. I would love for him to just toy with Roman Reigns in the briefcase. Can you imagine how much fun that would be?
That would be fun.
That would honestly, man, that would be must see TV every week as to, okay, what's Big E going to do next? How is he going to toy with Roman Reigns next? You know what I mean? So I think that would be cool.
And especially with Kofi versus Bobby at Money in the Bank, if that was like the match that started off the show and he won, and then him teasing at Kofi that, if you win, I'm not afraid to cash in on you. I think that would be a lot of fun to see that, anticipation. I don't think Kofi's going to beat Bobby, but I think just setting that up at some point would be a lot of fun to see that too.
Dude, what if he did though? What if he beat Bobby and then Big E turned heel by cashing in on Kofi?
I don't know.
Oh my gosh!
I know that would be great, and it would be shocking, and I wouldn't put it past him.
You talk about a bombshell.
I just, if anybody, it's weird. If anybody goes heel from New Day, I would love to see a heel Xavier more than a heel Big E.
I think I would like to see a heel Big E with a heel Xavier sidekick.
Yeah, going after Kofi. I think that would be a lot of fun too.
Yes.
But this all being said, putting the briefcase on Big E, there's no bad decision with it.
Right.
And I think that's the important thing.
That's absolutely correct. Next week, we've got a last man standing match between Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. The winner qualifies for the Money in the Bank match. But another thing that really jumped out to me, man, is I don't know if a lot of people caught this or a lot of people didn't pay attention to this because a lot of fans, I think, sleep on these guys. But Jimmy Uso and Dolph Ziggler had a banger of a match on SmackDown on Friday. Those are two of my favorites, man. And just sorry,
my wife just got home and hang on 1 second.
Okay. That's totally okay. I'll talk over you for a minute while y'all figure that out. So, man, Jimmy Uso and Dolph Ziggler, man, the zigzag spot on the steps was a nasty spot. I mean, oh my gosh, it was that match. I'm telling you, don't sleep on that match. Holy cow.
Yeah, I love this whole Uso Roman thing going on too. And I think we forget how good the Usos are by themselves because they're so great together. Yep. But them by themselves, I think they really work out. They work really well together. They work really well by themselves as well. And so I think them having these singles matches really pays off, and watching them be the workhorses that they are, I think it's really cool to see them kind of get this moment.
And I think it makes them a better tag team too.
Yeah.
I mean, it shows them off individually because a lot of people probably didn't think that these two could have been a team or been individuals and done so well. You know what I mean? So I think it shows them off as a team just, that much more. You know what I mean? So speaking of Roman Reigns, we get the return of the rated R superstar Edge, who is now getting a one-on-one championship match, like you mentioned earlier, at Money in the Bank for the Universal title. The match that he says should have happened at WrestleMania, and I tend to agree. Mm-hmm. I love that Daniel Bryan was in it, but Edge and Roman was the match, man. And we're going to get it at Money in the Bank, the first big pay-per-view with a crowd. I mean, I think WWE is going to hit it out of the park with this. Yep. Having that as your main event of Money in the Bank with a crowd, I think it's great.
Yeah, and I think I would not be surprised if it ends in a controversial fashion is a good way to put it. Because I could definitely see Seth getting involved and hitting a curb stomp on Edge or whatever, and then Roman pick up the win. That's a good way to get heat on Seth and on Roman. And I think that would be great to see that kind of come. But Edge versus Roman is a weird dream match, but it's still a dream match that a lot of people want to see now, and especially including me. I would much rather have this than Roman versus Goldberg. So I'm glad we're not going that route. But having these two guys like at Money in the Bank, more than likely going to main event Money in the Bank, like it's a recipe for success, and I think that's definitely what they're going for with Money in the Bank. Because I think if you look at like who's in the Money in the Bank matches and all the matches we know on the card so far, it's going to be I'm not going to say a WrestleMania style show, but it's got some pretty high quality matches on it. That's going to be a lot of fun to see, especially Roman versus Edge. I think that's probably going to be the match that steals the show. Is probably those two.
Well, and Money in the Bank is now considered one of those big four, now big five pay-per-views. Yeah. So they want to build it, and especially you combine that with the fact that the fans are coming back. And then you mentioned the Raw after Money in the Bank being like the Raw after WrestleMania, because now we're building to SummerSlam, which is going to be in a stadium the next month. You mentioned Edge and Seth Rollins for SummerSlam, and probably Roman Reigns, rumors being John Cena. Okay, Roman and Cena. Oh, that's cool. That's fine.
Yep.
But would you rather see, you mentioned a controversial finish at Money in the Bank. Would you rather see them turn this into a triple threat match for SummerSlam? Seth and Edge and Roman for the title?
I don't, because I think there's so much, and I know that they don't think that wrestling fans have long-term memory, but there's so much like history between Edge and Seth, with Edge threatening to break Seth threatening to break Edge's neck on Raw, and all these different stuff in the past. So I would be more inclined to see Seth versus Edge 1-on-1 and see Roman versus Cena, because everything's different now from the first time Roman and Cena faced each other. And so I would much rather see them be one-on-one matches in a triple threat match and kind of put everybody in one match, but stretch out the card. I mean, it's the first, other than WrestleMania, it's the first card with a full house in it. And you want to, you don't want to, this is one of the times where I think it would be okay for them to have like a 4-hour show, because they'll have fans back now and they're going to have a lot of stuff with it. So I think the more matches, which I've been on here before saying the less matches, the better, but this is a case where more matches are better. And so I would much rather see one-on-ones than triple threats.
Well, and of course you're going to be in a stadium too, so you got to find a way to act that stadium.
Right.
So what better match right now, honestly, if you're not going to bring in a Brock Lesnar or a Rock or somebody like that, what better match to have Roman Reigns and John Cena?
Yeah, and I think they still could bring in a Brock. I mean, I could still definitely see a Bobby versus Brock at SummerSlam. And if you had the triple main event of Bobby versus Brock, Seth versus Edge, and Roman versus Cena, I think that SummerSlam might be one of the best SummerSlams in the last few years. But
okay, let's go down that rabbit hole for a minute as we transition over to Monday Night Raw. If you bring Brock in to face Bobby at SummerSlam, does Bobby have to beat him?
I think so. I think Bobby beating him, and you could do a cash in that night too. You could have Bobby beating him and cash in if you didn't want the belt on Bobby. I think, though, if you want to continue to make Bobby Lashley look like this massive champion that he's been, he beat Drew McIntyre 3 or 4 times now. Yep. More than likely, he's going to beat Kofi at Money in the Bank. Let him not run through Brock, but let them have this meat house match. Let them go back and forth and let him pick up a win over Brock. And I think that would elevate him even more to build up to somebody finally beating Bobby for the title.
I think it would be interesting if Brock comes in, beats Bobby for the title, and then Drew cashes in and beats Brock again.
Yeah.
I mean, that could be interesting.
That could be interesting.
I know you mentioned earlier that, Drew being champion might not be the way to go. I sort of disagree, because I feel like maybe fans might not be behind him, but I think for as well as he handled the pandemic era, I feel like you've got to give him a shot in front of the fans as the face of the company.
Yeah.
Because he was literally 2.5 weeks away from having that run before the pandemic hit. I feel like you've got to give it to him. I think that maybe not right away, maybe right away. I don't know, but I'm tired of seeing Drew versus Bobby. Obviously, if they're running the story of Drew being in the Money in the Bank and now he has a path to the championship again, obviously they're not done. But
right.
I just, who else, if we're looking at SummerSlam down the road, which we're going to look at, I'm sure, in several weeks on the show, if we're looking at SummerSlam, who do you put Bobby against if you don't put him against Drew and you don't put him against Brock? Kofi's done.
Yeah.
So who does Bobby face at SummerSlam?
Well, I mean, if you bring up, you could call up somebody from NXT, which could always work. I'm trying to think who is on Raw. I mean, you could always bring back Keith Lee, but we don't know what the situation is with Keith. Braun Strowman's not in the company anymore. Bobby versus Braun would have been a lot of fun to see in a one-on-one match. Nobody like Jackson Riker is going to challenge Bobby Lashley for the. I mean, maybe AJ Styles, maybe Ricochet, maybe who else is on Raw? Maybe The Miz, maybe John Morrison, maybe Jeff Hardy. Maybe you give Jeff Hardy that one last run at SummerSlam to try to win the title. I mean, there are a few options, but to me, the money match would be Bobby versus Brock because it's something that everybody's wanted to see for years. Right. And it's something we've never seen. And so I think, like you said, Bobby versus Brock with maybe Drew cashing in at SummerSlam or maybe Big E cashing in at SummerSlam. I don't think they're going to do this. I would love it if Ricochet won and cashed in on Bobby Lashley after that match. So the little guy waits for the two big guys to beat the crap out of each other and pick up the win. Right. But I highly doubt they're going to do anything with Ricochet like that. So I don't know. I think if you don't have Brock, then the Bobby match is probably going to be a match that we're not really looking forward to at SummerSlam. And I think you want to have a big profile match for him, for a guy that's, been one of the top faces for last year.
Yep. I agree. Yeah, you definitely have to have a high profile match for Bobby Lashley. Who knows what it's going to be. Let's go down the Ricochet rabbit hole for a minute, though. Here's the match with John Morrison on Monday Night Raw. Oh, my goodness. What an incredible match. They mentioned it on Busted Open Radio. It brings us back to Lucha Underground. The very first episode, the main event was Prince Puma against Johnny Mundo. These two guys going at it again. Man, that was a lot of fun to watch those two guys. And kudos to WWE Creative for all the crap that we give them, for them being smart and keeping The Miz on television even when he's hurt. I mean, kudos to them because Miz's involvement just made the whole thing that much better. But what a fun match that really was.
Oh, I loved it. That spot from jumping off the top rope, landing on Morrison, the kind of ending spot, that was I don't think there's nobody else other than maybe Kofi that could have done that more flawlessly than Ricochet. And I think just those two having chemistry together from Lucha Underground and probably facing each other on the independent scene more than one time. It was a lot of fun. It was a great match. And it kind of reminds us why Ricochet is one of the most talented wrestlers in like all of professional wrestling.
I think the same can be said for John Morrison, I think.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. John Morrison is one of those guys that everybody tends to forget about. But he can put on great matches. And the thing about John Morrison, the thing about Ricochet is Ricochet's not the best talker in the world, and that's probably part of the reason why he's not as strong in WWE as some other guys have been. But John Morrison's kind of got the full package. I mean, he's not the best on the mic, but he can hold his own. And so I love that in the Money in the Bank this year, we're getting guys that haven't won a world title in WWE that are getting this shot. I think that adds such a different intrigue to it of this is probably going to be the first time some of these guys ever get the chance, and hopefully they'll be able to do something with it, as long as Brock doesn't come running in at the last second to win again.
That's why I kind of lean towards Big E as a pick for that match, because if you look at all those guys who have never been champion except for Drew, obviously, if you're not going to go with Drew, I think that Big E is the choice. But again, I won't continue to harp on that. But Ricochet, John Morrison, fantastic match. We mentioned Jackson Riker a few minutes ago. Can you please make sense as to why they have a strap match with Elias and Jackson Riker on Monday Night Raw? Why did that make any sense?
I don't really know. Unless they're like playing to the controversy around Jackson Riker for the last last year or so.
Yeah,
But if they're doing that, then, that's just them kind of trolling the fans, which they like to do. I mean, they like to do that, sure. But I don't know why. And it's something that I didn't really like. I don't think anybody was really excited to see this match on Raw. And I don't think anybody really cared about this feud that much. And so I don't really get the point of having that match on Raw, or even doing a strap match. If you're going to do a match, just do a one-on-one and let somebody win and then move on.
Well, let's dive into that for a minute, because I think Elias is one of those guys. You just mentioned that, the people just don't care about this or whatever. Why do people not care about Elias more? Why is Elias not pushed more? I mean, clearly, if you look at the guy when he came down to the ring, the dude is jacked to the gills. Yeah. He's in incredible shape. He's got a great look. He's got a personality through the roof. He has a character that's unlike anybody else on the roster, and he's pretty good in the ring. I mean, honestly, one of the best matches, I think, of I want to say it's 2017 or 2018. I can't remember. 2018. Money in the Bank, Elias versus Seth Rollins for the Intercontinental title. Go back and watch that match if you don't think Elias can wrestle. I mean, my goodness. Why don't you think they push him more?
Maybe it's part of the gimmick. Like, maybe because of his gimmick. Maybe I don't honestly know, because there are times where he could be like a Cameron Grimes on the main roster, where he could be like the most hateable heel and then turn into like one of the most beloved baby faces on the roster.
Sure.
And I think he's one of those guys that he obviously works better in a crowd. Because he can play off a crowd just about as good as anybody else can. I mean, that segment with him and Kevin Owens, where they were booing for 15 minutes straight and they just had to scream over the crowd the entire time. Like, you can't get a reaction like that with screens everywhere. So I think that may be part of it. But I don't know. Has he even had he won the U.S. title, I think, didn't he? Has he ever won a title?
I know he won the 24/7 title for a hot minute. Everybody wins it for a hot minute. I don't know that he won the U.S. title. I don't remember.
I don't think he's won a title on the roster,
except for 24/7. I don't think so.
Yeah, and so I don't know why they're doing that. Especially like he was like with Vince McMahon for a little while. Like Vince said he was the number one prospect or number one recruit or whatever going into SmackDown or something. And so I don't know why he's not done much, unless he's just, maybe there's some backstage politics going on, or maybe he's just not one of those guys that can do it. I don't really know what the deal is with it.
I don't know. Maybe he's not aggressive backstage and tries to push for himself. I don't know. I don't know what the deal is, but man, the guy's got the look. He's got the personality. He can wrestle. Like, give him a little bit of a push. I mean, you're not really doing anything with the Intercontinental title as it is, or the U.S. title as it is, or whatever. Let him have it. Let him run with it a little.
Who even has the U.S. title? Because it was Riddle. Sheamus has it. Sheamus got hurt. Yeah, and he has it. Yeah.
Sheamus has it, and he hasn't defended it at all.
Yeah, right. He did against Humberto, I think.
Did he actually defend the belt? Okay.
Maybe not. I don't know. I know there was a thing going on there, and then he broke his face or something. I don't know. I don't remember what.
Humberto kneed him in the face and whatever. Anyway. All right. Man, that really covers a lot of SmackDown and Raw. Let's move to a little bit of NXT from tonight. Next week is Great American Bash. Again, as your reminder, we are going to live stream on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Twitch. Make sure you join us next week, right after Great American Bash. Io Shirai and Zoe Stark, man, in the first match of NXT tonight, win the triple threat number one contenders match. They will face Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell for the women's tag team titles at Great American Bash. I anticipate that being a very good match. Io and Candice have had tremendous chemistry. Yep. Zoe Stark is a great up-and-comer. Don't know a whole lot about Indy Hartwell, and I assume that's why she's aligned with Candice, to really bring her along. But I do think this will be a really good match.
Yeah, the triple threat to start off NXT was ridiculously good.
Yep.
I mean, it was fantastic to see that match. And I think for some reason I've been seeing a lot of hate on Raquel Gonzalez as NXT Women's Champion. I think she is amazing. I think she's a strong champion. I think she's a champion that I can get behind at least. And I can buy her as a champion. But this whole match was absolutely amazing. I love the fact that Io has come back and has become this just firehouse that she's become. And like you said, I'm fully expecting that match to absolutely kill it next week.
If you listened to our podcast last Thursday, when I had my CCW broadcast partner, Tyler Peters on, you heard me say that I'm not a fan of Raquel Gonzalez.
Yeah.
I respect the work she does in the ring. I think she's got a great look. I think she, obviously she's a big powerhouse and, whatever. I just don't see her as the face of the women's division. I just don't. And I'm not sure what I'm missing. I'm not sure why, but I just don't see her as the face of the division. I don't know what it is.
Yeah. And I think some people thought the same, because I know obviously Bianca never got a run as the NXT Women's Champion, but I think a lot of people at first had the same caution about her because she didn't seem like she was doing a whole lot, or not. She wasn't seem like she was doing enough or whatever. I don't know. I think she's different than any NXT Women's Champion we've had. Like even like the size and the build of her, she's the only one I can really think of that was her size, and she was really even that her size at that time was Charlotte. Like I don't think Nia was ever NXT Women's Champion.
Nope. Rhea Ripley is pretty close.
Yeah, Rhea's pretty close, I think. But even still, I think Raquel's bigger and bulkier and taller and different. Yeah, definitely different. And so I think she's got what it takes. I think it's one of those that they may have put the belt on her too soon. But I don't think she has demoted the belt, or I don't think she's harmed the belt.
No,
in fact, I think the belt has definitely helped her a lot, which I think, that at times that's what a championship belt is supposed to do. It's supposed to elevate a person even more. And so I think that's definitely doing it with her. I'm waiting for the moment when Dakota Kai and her split up and they have that match, because Dakota Kai as the NXT Women's Champion would be a lot of fun as well, because I love Dakota Kai. I was actually there in person when she turned heel, which was a lot of fun. Freaked out for that. Oh, yeah,
that's right. You were.
Yeah. I was there for that War Games. That was a lot of fun.
Vicious assault on TV.
That, and then Kevin Owens shows up late that night.
Dude, you just booked it right there. If you get Raquel Gonzalez and Dakota Kai splitting up, Dakota wins the belt, and you get the return of Tegan Nox, and you see those two go at it for the title. Man,
amazing. Yeah.
Sign me up.
Absolutely.
I compare, and I just thought about this while you were talking about Raquel Gonzalez. I think Raquel Gonzalez her championship run makes me think of Big Daddy Cool Diesel without a personality. I'm not saying Raquel doesn't have a personality.
Yeah.
But Kevin Nash's personality is so over the top.
Right.
But she reminds me a lot of that, in the sense of a lot of people don't think that run was successful.
Right.
Don't think he deserved to be champion when he was. Don't think he should have been champion for the 9, 10, 11, 12 months that he was, whatever it was.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's my thought. I'm not saying she can't do it. And I'm like you. She has not demoted the belt in any way. She's just not connecting with me.
Yeah. And I think that, like, I think there's times where that's going to happen with certain, like, they're champions now. Like, one of them, Will Osprey. A lot of people love Will Osprey. I can't stand. I think Will Osprey is one of the most overrated wrestlers in wrestling, and I get a lot of hate for that, and I'm okay with that. But like,
send your hate tweets to I'm Andy York.
Yes, please do, and I will more than happy block you.
All right, Tony Schiavone.
No, I can take my hate. I can take my hate standing up. I'm a man. But like, there are other times, like there are times when, like, a guy like, I'm trying to think, I didn't hate Braun Strowman's run. I don't think they did a whole lot with him. But like, Braun Strowman's run wasn't the worst thing in the world. So I think it just depends on, there are some people that connect better with certain groups or certain audience members than others. And that's going to happen. You just kind of have to bide your time and wait for somebody else, or they grow on you. I think that tends to be the case every once in a while. People grow on you, so I think that could end up happening. And I don't think she's going to be called up to the main roster anytime soon. And so I think she could have 1 or 2 runs in NXT as a champion. But
somebody that might get called up to the main roster sometime soon, we've seen him get a couple of tryout matches, is Karrion Kross, the NXT champion. And on NXT tonight, he attacked Johnny Gargano, and it seems like, I don't know if this has been announced or not, so it would be news to me if it is, that they're going to go Kross and Gargano maybe next week. I don't know if they would do that for Great American Bash or if they'd save it for a takeover. It sure looks like the way that they're headed to me.
Yeah, I think Johnny attacked Karrion first tonight, and then
Karrion,
and then Johnny attacked him again on the parking lot, and then because it was a great shot when Johnny was beating Karrion with his car door, and he went around, and then Karrion Kross just popped up and put him in a chokehold and passed him out.
Okay, so see, I'm talking out my butt because that's okay. What I'm talking about.
That's okay. But yeah, no, I definitely think they are heading towards Johnny. I almost said Johnny Gonzalez, Johnny Gargano and Karrion Kross. I don't know if they're going to do it next week. They may do it Money in the Bank weekend, but I don't know if they're doing a takeover that weekend,
right?
Or not. But I think the next match for sure will be Kross versus Gargano.
I think so too, and I think Gargano is going to be a great guy to put him over. When you think of Gargano, you have to think of Tommaso Ciampa. He and Timothy Thatcher are getting a tag team title shot against MSK next week. I've been very vocal about not being a fan of this booking for Tommaso Ciampa. I'm just being honest, but I am looking forward to this match because I think he'll do really well with MSK. Don't think there's a shot in the world that they're going to win the tag titles against MSK, but it'll be a fun match to watch.
Yeah, I've been on the record to say I love Toothless Timmy and Tommaso Ciampa. I love them. I think they work. They're so different that they work well together, and it's weird. And I would much rather see. I agree. I would much rather see Tommaso Ciampa face someone like Karrion Kross for the NXT title, or at least be in the main event scene or in a high quality match or whatever. But I do agree with you. I don't think there's any way that they win, and I probably think this will be the end for Tommaso Ciampa and Timothy Thatcher. They probably break up. At Great American Bash. I think something crazy is going to happen at Great American Bash because it always does at these they're weekly shows, but they're like special weekly shows or whatever. And so I think this could be where we start to see Psycho Killer Ciampa come back and take out Thatcher or something. But I could definitely see something like that.
That would be great. And of course, we've got Kyle O'Reilly against Adam Cole. It says it's the second time, it's part 2, but we've talked about this rivalry ad nauseum. There's no way these two can have a bad match. It really is. It's going to be great. But what I want to bring up before we put a bow on this episode is the end of NXT tonight. We saw a brand new North American champion, Isaiah Swerve Scott, pulling the upset. I'll call it an upset over Bronson Reed. Wow. Yeah.
Well, first off, I actually really enjoy Hit Row. I think they're a lot of fun, and I think they are in a weird way, they're kind of like the new Sanity of NXT.
Interesting.
And so they're definitely obviously two different types of groups, but I think they're going to be that powerhouse group in NXT for a little while. I don't hate this decision specifically because I think Bronson Reed is probably on his way to the main roster because he's a big guy that a guy like Vince would like. Maybe we're getting Bobby versus Bronson at SummerSlam. I mean, that could be a thing that happens or takes place. But I definitely think him losing, because I think Bronson Reed was on Main Event last week too.
It was
something like that. So I think he got his tryout match too, like Karrion Kross, and I definitely think he's on his way to the main roster pretty soon. But if they put the belt on Swerve, I would much rather than put the belt on forget his name now.
Talking about the other guy in Hit Row?
No. At the last takeover.
Oh crap! What's his
Escobar?
Name? Yep.
Santos Escobar. Yeah. I'd much rather see them put the belt on him than Swerve. But I think those two could have a match now, or whatever takes place. But like I said, I think Bronson Reed is definitely on his way out.
Here's what I want to see: I want to see Karrion Kross drop the NXT title to Johnny Gargano and go to the main roster, and then I want to see a long, super long feud between Johnny Gargano and Santos Escobar for the NXT Championship.
Yep. And Escobar win it. And I think Escobar could be like Andrade in a lot of ways.
Man, I mean, and I think you take it to the next level because I've always thought that Andrade needed a posse. Mm-hmm. If Andrade would have had a posse, man, the guy would have went to the moon. Yep. No pun intended. But I think that with Santos Escobar having two heaters with him, dude has money written all over him.
Yep. Absolutely.
I love that guy and I love his gimmick. Well, man, that really that puts a bow on this week's episode. Make sure that you guys follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We're at PBW Podcast on all those platforms. Make sure you subscribe wherever you're listening to the podcast, or if you're watching on YouTube, again, make sure you subscribe. That way you can enter yourself in our giveaway for a free Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast t-shirt. This giveaway is running all the way through the month of July. All you have to do, subscribe to the podcast. Shoot us a screenshot of evidence that you subscribed and do it on whatever social media platform you want. Just tag us at PBW Podcast. Tell us, why you subscribe to the show. Tell your friends why you subscribe to the show. Tell them why they should subscribe to the show. Make sure you tag us and you're going to be entered in a giveaway. If you've already subscribed to the YouTube channel, just share the link of your favorite episode, tag us in it. Tell everybody why that's your favorite episode and why they should subscribe to the show. You're going to be entered as well. We're going to run this giveaway all through the month of July. And then at the end, we're going to pick a random winner. You guys are going to get a free t-shirt. All right. So just make sure you do that. Make sure you keep up with us. I am at Chris Belcher 24 on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Andy is the host of the Shandy Show, your one-stop shop for everything DC, Marvel, all that kind of stuff. Man, you're moved into your house. I expect to see that podcast coming back pretty soon. Tell everybody where they can find it.
Yeah, we're hopefully going to start back really soon. We're planning on starting back before or right on July 8th, because July 8th is when Black Widow comes out in theaters. That's like the first. We've had there's a lot of Disney Plus shows, Marvel Disney Plus shows that have come out, but this is like the first back in action, live action MCU Marvel movie. So we're going to be planning on starting around that time as well. But we're going to be covering all things Marvel, DC, Star Wars, movies. It's my show, so basically we're going to cover anything I want to talk about that week. So it's going to be a lot of fun. As we get closer to MLB postseason, if somehow the Cincinnati Reds make it to the postseason, we'll definitely be talking about that. I'll have you on to talk about that.
Well, man,
if that pipe dream ever comes true.
It'll be a miracle if they make it. Good grief.
Oh, man. But we're going to be talking about things, all different kinds of things. And from time to time, we'll talk about wrestling. I tweet about wrestling all the time and movies and things. So definitely go follow us there. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple Music, Google Plays, all of that fun stuff. You can basically, any way you find the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast, you can find us as well.
There you go. So make sure y'all check that out if you're fans of that. Andy, really appreciate you hopping on, man. It's always a blast. And can't wait to do it again.
Absolutely.
All right, man. Thank you for listening or watching to the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast this week. We greatly appreciate it. I am your phenomenal host, Chris Belcher. Again, you can follow me at Chris Belcher 24. Thanks so much for checking us out. We will catch you guys down the road.